again from Crazy Dave's Crew. You are watching another edition of Thursday Threads. Today we are going to do something a little different. Normally I've been doing quilting blocks and different things. Today we're going to work on an embroidery design. I have been making these for presents for an assisted living facility, and it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. And thank you so much to Shannon of Lovely Leaf Applique on Etsy. One, for designing the design, and two, for giving me permission to use it in this video. So let's get started. So we're going to change machines today. This is a Brother Innovis 5000. A very special gift from my husband a few years ago when I'd first gotten sick with myasthenia gravis. I was having a lot of trouble and I didn't think I'd be able to sew. So we went out and he bought me this monstrosity and I love it. I call it baby. So just call me the old woman who names things. By the way, that's a book by Cynthia Ryland. Absolutely marvelous book for little kids. So first things first. This is a Brother. I have my smaller hoop for the 4x4, I believe it is. I have my stabilizer. I've got thread in the machine. And the first stitch that we're going to do is going to be a placement marker. And I've cut 3 ribbons, 6 inches long. And I'm going to want those placed right here on that line. And this is where you can get very, very creative. And I love that. Well, everywhere on this one you can get very creative. I'm going to place it where it's just above that line. It's good. And that little piece of masking tape, scotch tape, clear tape, is going to hold that. So we're going to lock that back in. We're going to let that sew down. Okay. The next stitch is kind of a reference line. It's only going to be seen on the stabilizer, but this kind of lets you know how big your fabric needs to be. Okay, so that right there shows you the size of your badge. So, that piece of felt's not going to work, is it? Nope. So I got to get a different one. Well, I'm going to go ahead and use my backing, or I'm going to put 2 pieces on here. So I've got a green and an orange, and those are big enough. Slide that back in. And we're going to stitch down the stitch, and this is an important one. Alright, we're going to remove this from the machine, but we are not going to unhoop it. So without unhooping it, I'm going to take my handy dandy applique scissors, and I would highly recommend you get these. You can cut with other little scissors. You can. It's a little bit more difficult and a lot less accurate. So you're going to take these and you're going to trim as close as you can with only this top fabric. I said I'm using felt. I like how she showed, you know, different fabrics. So really, you can personalize these things. And what I really like too is, you know, for any age or for any occasion. Use the blank one for a graduate. Use the blank one for a bride and groom, flower girl. Maybe you want to reward your kids. Be good for teachers. You know, this is the line leader of the week, or this is the kid who got the most reading points or something, you know. I read this many books. Or I won the 50-yard dash. You see, I've gotten as close as I can. And then use it to finish trim. Now we're going to go back over to the machine and it's going to do a nice stitch to cover up all of that. I want to change thread. I want to use a variegated. I'd been nervous about using a variegated. So changing thread, we're going to pull it this way. So if you've never used a variegated thread, now you'll know what it looks like. This was a leap of faith for me. I didn't know what it would look like, but I wanted to test it. Load, thread that needle. And let it go. how pretty that is. Okay, now we're going to put in our words. I'm just going to go very colorful. Let's do purple. And we are saying happy birthday. The next step is one I skip. It's got like little white beading across, and I don't use that one, but it will make it look a little bit more fancy. But I'm going to go ahead and skip to the last one. And now's where you want to, again, I'm going to change my thread. I'm going to use this green, or something as close to it as I can. They're not perfect. That one's better. And that's just my preference. You can do it, you know, whatever your preference is. Before we stitch, we're going to remove this from the machine, but do not unhoop it. So we're going to float a piece of the felt on the back. I'm going to use my 505 spray. Spray it under my table, in a box. And then we're just going to kind of cover up all the lines. No stitch lines visible, so that's good. You could tape it with Scotch tape or painter's tape. I just do a quick spray, make sure I'm nice and tight. Now we're going to go in and do the last stitch. Okay. Make sure my needle's still threaded. Yep. Alright, let's do that last stitch. And now we're done. All right, so let's take this out of the hoop and let's finish it up. So I'm just gonna take it out. And I always like to put it back together again. So now you need to cut. And you want to be very careful, because if you just cut with your scissors, if you just cut along, you know, you're going to cut right through the ribbon. So you don't want to do that. To make it a little bit easier for me to handle, I tear some of this off. I like the terrible stabilizer. So with a nice pair of scissors, and yes, this is the pair of scissors that no one else is allowed to use, I start a little ways away from the ribbon. Okay? And this is just the way I do it. You do it your way. And then as carefully as I can, about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam, I trim. Alright, well, I'm getting close to those ribbons and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to stop. Now, I'm going to work on the ribbon area, but I'm going to move the ribbons to one side, cutting one piece of the felt at a time right now. So again, if I do both, I'm going to cut through my ribbon. And then that would be what would be the use of having put the ribbon on there. The ribbon's what makes it look spectacular. Okay. And I'm going to do the other side. And I always like to kind of clip my strings. That's just me, I guess. I don't know. So I'm going to hold my ribbons to the back side. Ah, see, I had to look. Aren't we glad I looked? Please be careful that you don't cut your fingers. I say that, you know, there's no reason really, you know, why I would say something silly like that. Except the fact that I did it. I actually kind of snipped the pad of my finger. It was fun. So now you've cut it out, and just do a little bit of an evening. Try to even it all up. Make it a smooth circle, as smooth as you can. I use pinking shears, but you guys, you know, trim up the edges of your ribbons. Last step, you need a pin back. Okay? And I always like to make sure I open them up. Does it have all the pieces? Because I'm sorry, you know, these things are made by machines. Machines make mistakes. Okay? So that's one of the first things I do. And then I also want to cut just a little strip of coordinating felt. And we're just going to put this aside. Now, I'm going to use my glue gun, and I'm just going to put me a little bit of glue right there. Making sure it does not get into the mechanisms for the pin. And I'm extra cautious. I always put a little bit more on top in the center. Again, let's make sure you don't cover up the mechanism. Then with your little piece. And I think that just stabilizes a little bit better. And when that dries, you have a birthday badge. Tell me that that's not awesome. You can be done with all different colors. So again, Shannon with Lovely Leaf Applique on Etsy. Thank you so much for designing this design and putting it out there for people to purchase. I have had a lot of fun with this, and very colorful. that is how to make a birthday badge using a design bought off of Etsy. Hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you check out Miss Shannon. I've never met her, okay? Don't know her. I purchased this and I thought it was a good design. So thank you so much to her, and thank you to everyone who's watching. I hope you've had a good time with this, and I hope to see you next time on Thursday Threads.